Hi, my name is Sabrina.
And my name is Samantha.
And we'd like to welcome you to Orchard Park, home of Team 2056. If you have any questions about the day, where a session is located, where the bathrooms or cafeteria is, we can help.
I would like to introduce Stan Hunter, who will be talking about how to prepare for an FRC competition.
Thanks, ladies. The things that you're forced to do on a robotics team. And the skills that you gain as you do that, which is why I do what I do. Welcome. I only do sessions because I need to fill in the schedule. So sometimes they are useful, and I hope that you can gain some stuff from this session. But please make sure that you spend some time talking to people today, learn from different people from different sessions, and hopefully you can enjoy the day as I will after I'm done this session. I'm going to talk about our preparation for a competition. So what do we do to get ready for a competition? And you may think that might be just a few weeks, a month before a competition. I'm going to go all the way back to actually starting like now in the season, because I think it all builds to what you're going to do in March and April when you're competing. Jump in, ask questions, say I don't understand that because I've never experienced that, or I don't know what that means, or if you've got something to add to that point, please join in, because I know there's a lot of experience here as well. So I'm not the only expert. Just to give you an idea of our overall philosophy as a team, we kind of have these three pillars, and we start with this with our brand new students in September, October, November, teaching them those three pillars of what we aspire to, what we endeavor to do, what our every decision that we make, we revolve around these three things. And that's not just the robot. And you may look at some of our robots in the halls and say, that's not very simple. But if you break them down, they become pretty simple. They're just some systems that are put together. Our very first robot was a kit bot. We took the kit that we got in the kit frame that we got, and we put it together, and that was the beginning of our robot. And people think that that kit bot is not very good. It's a beautiful way to start. So even in your future years, those frames are good. So simple, effective. We always want to be thinking about how this robot, how this process, how this conference, whatever it is effective. How can we make it work? And then robust. Let's make sure we don't just do it to get it done. Let's make sure it'll last. And that's something for our robot. It has been incredible to see how we've built in robustness over the years. And Tyler will talk about that more in his session, but you can see the difference between a robot that's failing after a few events. And in Ontario now we have 2 district events and a district championship, and then if you go to championship, that's 4 events. And if you happen to add another event in there, the robots get tired very quickly. And so making them last that long, we don't make them to last forever. Some of our kids were commenting about, as they were moving them around the halls yesterday to get them out there, some of them don't roll very well anymore because they don't work as well as they used to, but they're old. So robust, simple, effective, robust. So that's kind of overarching all the way through everything we do. So let's look at how we prepare for competition, in the sense of what are some of the things that we do that we think are very important to how we perform on the field. We build a field. So the nice thing, I was talking about it earlier, we have a room in the school that we've set aside, and if you get a chance, go down and take a look, that we've set aside to build a field every year. If you don't have a room, build part of the field. Build stuff that will show you what this game is about. The drawings are all online. I know they're not very good, You have to spend some time with those drawings to make sure that they are close to what the actual field is like. But the closer to the field you can get, the more opportunity you have to interact with it and practice with it. We build our field the very first week of kickoff. So by the Saturday following kickoff, we want to have as much of the field as we can up and set up. Part of it is it gives some of the kids something to do when we're brainstorming, designing, and there's no hands-on stuff going on with the robot. It gives them an opportunity to use some tools, learn about woodworking. I bring in parents, mums and dads that can help out with that stuff, and we build as much of the field as we can.
Stan, is the field perimeter always the same?
It has been for as long as we've been. So
Okay.
it's 27 by 54. I think one year it was skinnier. There was something they changed in the size, but it wasn't very much. The ends always change. So depending on the game,
Yeah.
the ends. And one year with 20, I can't remember. You only needed half the field because you never crossed the middle of the field. So you could
Recycle Rush.
Recycle Rush, 2015.
Yeah.
So we only built half the field, which is great. You can get away with it, as little as you can. Our room is not as big as an actual field. So every year we have to make decisions. We're about 10 feet short. We have the width, but we're about 10 feet short. So we always have to make decisions. Where are we gonna cut our space? And so those are decisions you make. How much of this field are we gonna build? What's important, what's not important? And that analysis is as key to the design of your robot as actually the game pieces and things like that. We discovered, I've got 2007 example, I listed that up there so I remember to say it. In 2007, our very first year, it was, what was the game? It was, my brain, I'm getting old. I lose stuff. Anyway, you had to hang inner tubes on a rack that was in the middle of the field. And the inner tubes were round, inner tubes. And that year they made a decision in the rules that you could be 120 pounds, but you had to be 4 feet tall. You could be 110 pounds and be 5 feet tall, and 100 pounds and 6 feet tall. So your weight depended on your height. And you made a decision. And so we decided to stay short and as heavy as we could. And we made that decision fairly early on after doing some analysis on how high we could reach and things like that. And we made the trade-off that we would do that and not reach the top rung on the rack and roll is what it's called. So we decided we're not gonna reach the top rung of this rack, we're gonna just go in the bottom ones, but we're gonna be 120 pounds so we don't get pushed around, and 4 feet tall. Well, we built the field. So we've got this big rack in our room, and at that point I didn't have that whole room, so we had the rack in a corner of the room. And we took a wooden prototype, and we were kind of messing around with a 4-bar arm. And our robot, that is the only robot that's not in the hall. It's actually in my room 1060, no, 10, what's my room number? We changed room numbers this year, so I can't remember, I don't even know what room I'm in. 1069? No, 1069 is the field. My classroom is 1075. 1075 sprockets. So we built this wooden prototype arm to mimic the heights and how that mechanism would work. And so we picked up a tube and we put it on the rack, no problem, first level, second level. And then we realized that if the tube was standing up, which a bunch of the tubes started standing up on the field, if we picked it up standing up, we could score on the top rung. And so having that field, we realized after week 1 that we could actually score on all 3 levels because the field was there. We've done that so many times where we built the field and we realized that the game is different than what we envisioned. Even though we watch that animation, all that stuff, we see how things play out with space, with textures of carpet and Lexan and all that stuff. One thing we missed this year was the reflectiveness of the scoring on the cargo ship and the rocket. We didn't realize that piece of metal behind the targets would reflect as much as the reflective tape, and that's something we missed, even though we set it up pretty close to that in our field. So those things are key important parts. It also shows you driver visibility as you get a rocket or you get in a number of years with platforms in the middle of the field, all that stuff, you start to see how much the driver can see and not see. So build as much of the field as you can, and build it out of the material that is actually field material. And that's, we built wooden structures this year, and so that's how we missed the fact that there was a reflective piece of metal behind that Lexan. Build 2 robots. So I know that things are changing this year with no bag day, and the idea is that teams don't have to build 2 robots to be able to continue to practice. You will always have your competition bot up until competition to be able to practice with, which is awesome. But I suggest that you still build at least part of 2. We practice with our, in the past with a bagged robot, we would practice with our practice robot, and we'd have another robot that would be driving around playing defense on us, or just getting in the way, or whatever that other robot could be doing, just to do that.
Or like having another bot, is it more important to have another bot or a bot that would be similar?
So now, with the rule changes, another bot that's not similar. So even last year's robot, you can use to drive around and get in your way and things like that. I would suggest though, if you're gonna practice lots, you gotta really keep an eye on your competition bot if you're gonna use that to practice all the time. We find that our practice robot is beat. It's busted. It's bent all to mess because we practice so many hours with it. It drives more than our competition bot. So I don't want to do that to my competition bot. So then we will still build 2 robots this year, exactly the same, and they will mimic each other. It also gives you opportunity to code. When you've got somebody practicing with this bot, you can be coding this robot, you can be repairing that robot, all those things. The trade-offs are huge now with.
What do you think about using the competition robot during the build season only for autonomous tuning?
Yeah, and that's probably more what we will do. Once we've got our competition bot done and we've run it through its checks and everything, we know it's running well, it will probably just be for autonomous at home.
Yeah, for a team that has limited means initially, we're a Rookie +1 team this year. Should we consider using this year's robot, maybe ripping off the top structure and building a new top structure, or just leave it as it is and use it in the defense role?
Yeah, it depends.
And then struggle to find the parts to build a second robot.
It depends a lot on the game, but having a drivetrain that will drive around is better than nothing. And even giving your driver some opportunity to practice driving, which we'll get to in a minute. But I think it depends a lot on the game and again, your resources, right? How much money can I spend on 2 manipulators, things like that. The more you can do, the better. It'll pay off big time.
Will you use the second robot perhaps to prototype 2 different arrangements?
You could, you could. You want to be careful you don't go down 2 different roads and don't ever get to the end, right? Because you can go back and forth with 2 different ideas and never finalize on one. The rules do open up this year that you can take a mechanism 1 and a mechanism 2 and to a competition and use them interchangeably depending on, you have to watch the inspection stuff and take care of that. But that goes back to my very first slide, which said simple. that's not as simple as having one mechanism and being forward with that. Prototyping for sure. Did you have a comment? Yeah.
You can also, if you're into using a kitbot, you can use either a kitbot as a defense robot, or you can have your drivetrains pretty much made for you, so you can just like switch your superstructure over.
Exactly, yep. And teams, I know we do, we have 2 kit bots in the box. If you are really struggling with another drivetrain and you need one, just contact me. And I know teams that get kit bots, they don't opt out of them, have them sitting and not being used. So that's a possibility. There's, you know, you don't have everything there, but there's at least the frame and stuff if you're using that. So
So
certainly,
take you up on that.
yeah, reach out to me, because I know I have 2 sitting in the box, and one I know I'm gonna use this year for my class, but I still have it on. Yeah, so build 2 robots. We have, after our very first year, we've always built 2. And I know with no bag day, it changes things, but I think people will want to still build at least part of 2. Strategy. So this is an interesting picture. So the field we had built in our room, and this is Shankar. He has been a big strategist for our team over the years. He's actually living in London, England right now, which is really sad for us. We miss him, but he's
You didn't
He-
Skype him in today?
No, we thought about it. He perched himself inside there as we were discussing strategy. This is before our robot's built. This is just talking through the game, trying to figure out how is this game going to be played out? What are the visual things, all those kind of stuff. And so it was a neat little picture, but it reminds me of the fact that we do this all the time through our build. We're talking strategy. People will show up on Saturday, like Shankar, Oliver, mentors that come in from Toronto will show up on a Saturday, and they'll be arguing. We'll be arguing back and forth. There'll be stuff going on in the room, the field's getting put together, but we'll be arguing how this game's gonna play out. And that ties in huge to how we design and build our robot and how the competition plays out later on. So that we've got a mental idea of all the possibilities of how this game's gonna play out. Keep an eye on where, so the robot, if you're using one robot, you gotta watch where things are wearing out, what's breaking, drivetrain. We shear off gears in our drivetrain all the time. So we're popping open our gearboxes on our competition bot, making sure those gears aren't being shred. Sometimes you have steel gears meshing with aluminum gears, and over time those will just eat the aluminum gears up. But because of weight, we wanna have nice light aluminum gears. So keep an eye on that stuff. I always joked. We had a parent that we talked about years and years ago about putting a timer on our practice robot to see how many hours it actually ran, and then record, okay, when did this break? When did this break? When did this break? So we could do the same on our competition bot. But it helps you with what's gonna fail and beat it before it fails. Change it out before it fails. So you're doing that, preparing for your competition, because you don't want it to fail at competition. Plan for replacement before it breaks, which is not always easy.
So at a competition, you actually bring both? Leave one on the trailer and leave the other one on the pit?
I don't bring the practice robot, but I'll bring a mechanism from the practice robot, so the pickup mechanism. So this year, we just unbolted our front pickup and included it in our weight as we walked in. So you had 30 pounds of material that you could carry in that you have manufactured. Now the rules changed this year, and does anybody know? There's no allowance, But you can bring everything in, you can't bring something in tomorrow that you made.
Everything up to and including, up to and not including a robot.
Right.
Break it into two parts and you're good to go.
Almost.
Almost, yeah. So those mechanisms that you know your pickup mechanism that'll maybe fail, get smashed into a wall or something like that. And the nice thing is our two robots are identical, so I can unbolt that whole front mechanism and carry it in. And we were always constrained by weight, so we would pick and choose, but now you can take all those mechanisms off and carry them in. Now, cots, so things that you bought, you can bring in as much as you want, and you can bring that in every day, all day. Raw material you can bring in, so you can make something there, but things that you've made is restricted to load in. So then, we spend a lot of time building our team. So I call our robotics team a team. It's not a club. We don't just hang out. But we also have to be thoughtful about how we create that team mentality. And so we do a lot of things, and not as much as I would like. I would like to do more. But we do a lot of things to build camaraderie, family, teamwork, and things as we prepare from now till competition season. So Inside Ride is something we do in the school, so we get all kinds of kids on the robotics team to be part of the Inside Ride. We do food drives, clothing drives, things like that, and then actual team building exercises as we go through the season to build that connectedness to everybody else. And it's hard. You get a bunch of grade 12s that have been around for 4 years and they know what they're doing and they hang out in this spot, and then there's all these grade 9s that come in and they don't know anybody and they're kind of hanging out in the back. And how do you get them to mix? And part of it is a mentality. That's the way it's always been. So you can start to build that in as young teams, and it'll be there hopefully forever. But you have to work at it. We eat together, so we're always eating together. And robotics, you have to eat, so do it together. Bring in food. Everybody loves to eat. And have fun. So building that team is, part of it is having fun. I think there's, a number of quotes out there of people saying it's the hardest fun you'll ever have. And it's true. But make sure that you have fun. Catching kids in the scale or the switch, they're having fun. They're enjoying it. And you could get all over them about, not being safe or whatever, but that's pretty safe. And include your family. Something that a parent mentioned after their first year on our team and said, I didn't realize everybody bought shirts or got shirts. And I says, yeah, come and join in. I know it's another cost, but if you can include everybody, not just team members, then that helps. Know the rules. Read the rules, read the rules, read the rules, read the rules. We reread the rules before we go to events, something that we have our drive team go through the rules. Tyler's done quizzes. He's had quizzes made up for the drive team to know, okay, well, what's the real answer to this rule, so that you know it. My pet peeve is human players that don't know the rules, because it affects all of us. And we were in that position once, and it drove me crazy that that happened to us, because I'm always thinking about other teams that when they don't know the rules, it's hard to play. And so read the rules, or read them over and over again. We have our kids read the rules after kickoff and make sure they know it by Monday. But this even goes to before you go to competition. You read them back in January. You probably looked at them January and February, but March. What was that rule again?
A lot of updates too.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of that, how much similarity is there from previous year's rules to the next? Because, as you said, we have a lot of rookie guys
Yep.
on our team, girls. So, exposing them to previous year's rules and maybe associating that with STEM competition.
Yep.
So they're aware of what the rules are, maybe that is a suitable warm-up.
It is. I get my grade nines to read last year's rules. They're very similar. You know, they add motors and they change weights of things and they do things like that, but for the most part, it's very, very similar. And at least they get an idea of the framework, the structure of the rules. This dates us, but I used to print off books on the Saturday of kickoff. You know, those days are gone, but man, what a hassle to get the rules those days. I would be calling UPS print shop to start printing at 12:01 or whatever the password got in, and they'd say, no, I can't get that in. You better get it. So online stuff is so much easier. Q&A, and I forgot to put that in there, but the updates. I always have a student or a couple students that are in charge of those updates, and so they announce to the team every Tuesday and every Friday what's in the update, what's new, what's changed, keeping kids on the Q&A. There's always one or two students that are detail oriented, and so they like going in there and reading that stuff, and so to get them to share with the team what's in there.
How often does your team meet?
Our team, so Tyler is a good one that session that Tyler's doing, and it's at the end of the day now, because he's doing one now, but he goes through the whole build schedule. Our build schedule is changing slightly because of no bag day, but we meet in the past Monday, Wednesday, Friday, during build season, Monday, Wednesday, Friday till 9:30, that's when we get kicked out of the building, and Saturday from 9 till 6. So that's from all of January and into February to when bag day was. That's gonna change slightly, but our goal is to have, instead of having the day after family day be our bag day, we're gonna do the week later, because it costs us money to be in the building on weekends, and especially the long weekends, so we're canceling, we won't do that Saturday, Monday, which we always did because bag day was the day after family day. Our goal is to be done by the week after, because we have flexibility now.
Do you make any accommodations for some mentors coming from Toronto?
Yeah, so the problem is that the good time for adult mentors is Friday night, Saturday. Saturday costs me. So we're always doing that trade-off of whether we pay for a rental on a Saturday or not have the mentors available physically here. And that's just because of where we've been mentors from.
Do you run a robotics course associated with FRC?
Yeah, so I have a grade 11 and a grade 12 engineering with the robotics, TER is what it is, TER 3M and 4M. We started it a couple years ago. It's not quite where I'd like it to be, in the sense that there's only a handful of kids that are interested in that course, so it's always stacked with something else. If it was on its own, it would be awesome, but it's always stacked with something else, so it's not where we want it to be, but it's getting there. And we do meet every week, every Tuesday in the fall, so every Tuesday we're meeting already. Kids ask me on the day after Labor Day if we're actually meeting on that Tuesday, and I say no. But the week after, we start meeting, and we meet, the rule is we meet every Tuesday from now until the end of the year. And then we have the build season, which, those Tuesdays we don't meet.
Would you be willing to share some of the course materials with?
Sure. Yeah,
We're setting up a robotics course under IDC 3.0.
okay,
We had hoped to get it going for September, but we don't have the parts in the lab, and we just got the room in the 31st of August, so.
right.
Now we have a place. We're starting to fill it up, at least with furniture and partitions and storage cabinets, which are largely empty. So we still have no power tools and so on, it's
Yep.
the next thing.
Yep.
But, if we can get some insights there, that'd be
Yeah,
helpful.
Yeah, mine's
The
pretty.
intention is we wanna add a second course next year and then
Right.
a third course.
Yeah, yeah, so mine is, the kids are instructed to take it, all year. So they take the grade 11 in the first semester and they take the grade 12 in second semester. So technically, it's the same kids that I have the whole year. And the idea is that we can do all kinds of things like preparing for the conference, doing, VEX IQ stuff in our elementary schools, and then, preparing robot stuff in the fall for the new kids. We do sessions every Tuesday for mechanical, electrical, scouting, all that stuff, so those kids are preparing that stuff. And then, in second semester, in the January, you're building robot stuff in second semester. But the problem is, I have another group of kids in that same classroom, so we can't just go to the robotics room and start working on the robot. That's where I'd like it to be, but it's not. And I get kids that are not on the robotics team taking that course now, because it's another engineering course they want to take, so I can give you what I have. It's not beautiful, and it changes every minute. Okay, let's keep going.
Is that part of a schism, or is that just,
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost our manufacturing schism a bunch of years ago, don't ask me. Prepare for judges. So, judges are gonna come around to your pit and talk to you about your robot, your team, all that stuff. Have your kids prepare for that. We've written scripts, we've written point form stuff, we've had kids practice it, all kinds of different levels of doing that. Some years we forget, some years we remember, but prepare for those judges. What do you say? Who's gonna say it? And what I tell my kids is, tell them your story. What's it all about? Why are you here? What's it doing in your life to be on robotics? That kind of stuff. I know teams that they have a mentor that just does that, and they are drilling them on stuff. It's crazy. But the more you prepare there, the better you will be at getting awards, or just teaching the kids how to talk to adults about robot. I always tell this story. We were in Atlanta, and I don't remember what year it was, but I walked around the corner, and there's our pit, and there is Steve Wozniak talking to my students in the pit. Started Apple with Steve Jobs. Those people don't know. And there he was, talking to my kids. He was a judge in Atlanta. He was there a couple of years. We saw him a number of times, but that year he had our pit as one of his, and incredible. Mentors, teachers, we have to get the paperwork done, so make sure you do that beforehand, get it all ready. There's the medical information, there's contact information. It's getting easier and easier to contact people. You know, you can use the Remind app, you can use different things that connect with the kids when you're traveling and stuff like that. So that's nice compared to what it used to be when you're trying to find kids and you don't know where they are, and because they're getting dropped off, all that stuff. Team roster, make sure you take care of that. I always do it all online. You don't have to worry about the paperwork, although you still have to print it. I'm not sure why. Not quite sure. So take care of that paperwork. Backups. Have backups. We use GitHub. I don't know what people use for their programming languages. That's a great way to have your code backed up. Make sure you do it. Get it into the repository. We have a second driver station, or at least some laptop that we can use for a driver station as a second. I've seen laptops fly across the room and don't work anymore. I know 1114 have those, what do they call those solid, tough books, because they lost one of their driver stations in the competition, so they went and bought 2 tough books. Those things are indestructible, but And programming laptop, make sure you have that, and we have a second programming laptop, and maybe it's just another student's laptop, but you know that you've got a backup for that. And don't carry them in the same bag. If they get run over by the truck, then they're both gone. And then updates, all that stuff, driver station updates, all those things, keep your backups. It's frustrating when you're trying to find stuff and you don't know where it is and you haven't got it backed up. So I asked my wife if I could put that word up there. She said, yeah, if you're gonna talk about what you talk about with the kids. I have a don't be stupid talk with my students and my parents. And what it means, and they all know what it means now, is what's my behavior like at an event? And we prepare for that. We talk to them about what it means to be at an event, privilege, where are we, how are we talking, how are we communicating on our phones, all that stuff. My kids know that when I'm talking about don't be stupid, they know what that means. And so it's a quick reminder about our behavior at events, and I do it with adults as well. We've had situations where we've had adults that are out of control, and we need to make sure that they're aware of the expectations and what gracious professionalism is. What does that mean as parents and as kids? And if you're new and you're not sure what GP is and what that all involves, it's a good time to start learning about what it means to not boo other teams, to encourage other teams no matter what, to be cheering and being positive in the stands, even talking about other teams. We are critical about other teams when we do our scouting and strategy meeting, but that stays in-house, and we're not being critical to be mean, we're being critical to be picking and choosing which robot is gonna be our partner. Medical, make sure you know, you've informed people what things have to happen when we have medical stuff. Pit, prepare your pit beforehand. Make sure it fits into the size that you are given. They say 10 by 10, but it's not always that. I know some locations you get smaller size pits, so make sure that you can fit in it. We tell our team that the pit is not a hangout place. It's not a place to put your bags and your coats and stuff like that when you arrive. It's a place for the robot to be repaired, to go through strategy for the next match and stuff like that. So come and see the pit, come and talk to people, but don't hang out there. We do pre-match checklists, we do post-match checklists, stuff like that. That can be all prepared before you go. Figure out what needs to be checked, what needs to be on that list, and have your students do all that stuff. I'll get the spare parts in a minute, but and make it look good. We use our pit for our sponsors and for people that are coming to the events, stuff like that. This is an interesting picture I took. I don't remember which event it was, but this is a set of Allen keys. I can't remember what that was, but it was some chunk of something. And this is a dumbbell, a weight, and that got lost in the middle of a match. It fell off somebody's robot. I think the dumbbell was supposed to be there for weight, but it wasn't attached very well. And the Allen keys obviously were not supposed to be there. So that's part of that match checklist as you're going out to an event, going out to the match. Make sure that you've got, you've checked over things, your bumpers, all those kind of things, you've checked and double checked. And so if you've got that in the mindset before you get to an event, then it's becomes habit.
We've accidentally done that with both a screwdriver, which luckily stayed in, and a battery, which flew out at the end. We had to get rid of that battery.
So batteries are always, it's funny, but it's not funny, because that's your life on a robot, right? That's your blood. And every year you see somebody's battery come undone or come out, and so connecting that battery. We zip tie our battery connector, and we strap our battery in. So those are things that are preparation for competition, things that you can do that are just good things to do all the time. Put a zip tie around the battery, and we have one person look after our batteries. We don't have 2 or 3 people taking batteries in and out of our robot. It's always one person. They know exactly what they're doing. They know which battery was the good one, which one's the bad one coming out. And always, always, always one person that looks after batteries, no matter where we are. And they're the ones that tying it in, and we know that that's all taken care of. Spare parts. Have spare parts as much as you can, and I know resources aren't where we would all like them to be. We would love to have a full locker of everything that we have on our robot, but things that goes back to that wear situation where we were keeping an eye on what wears on our robot. Then you know what's gonna need to be replaced. Are your wheels tread, if you're putting tread on them, or if you're, the Coulson wheels, they wear, so have extra wheels. Sensors, is it gonna get broken? The LEDs on this robot would get hit, so we would have spare LEDs. Just those things that you're gonna have to replace. Teams, typically, you can go get bolts and nuts and things like that from other teams. And you can go get speed controllers and things like that from other teams, but that's a hit on their spare parts, and that they brought them for their use. So be careful with that. And there is a spare parts table, which you can pay for, or at least put a credit card on and then swap it out or whatever. But don't be afraid to go ask teams for stuff. But try and bring what you can so that you're prepared for that.
Crisis with a wheel, and we're lucky to
Yeah.
have another team.
People will
bless us
always,
with one.
people will always be willing to give you stuff. It gets hard when we find ourselves, people come to us because they know we bring a lot of stuff. And so then I'm handing out all kinds of stuff, and at the end of the day, it costs money. There was one year that we tallied up how much stuff we gave out, and it was incredible. And some people do pay us back, and that's awesome.
We started keeping a track of it so we could restock.
Yeah, just that alone. And I tell my kids, bolts and nuts and fasteners and all that kind of stuff, zip ties, whatever, tape, we could give that out all day. But when it becomes the more expensive electronics and parts like that, then they gotta come and ask me, cause, oh no, that was our only one. And then you start thinking, oh no. And I'm
It happens.
I'm a bit of a worrier that particular part is the one I'm gonna need. I do a checklist. I have a complete checklist before we leave that I get the kids to go through. Okay, was this ready? Is it ready to go? And is it loaded on my trailer or vehicle or whatever? We've left totes behind. I've had people come back to the school to try to get in to get stuff from all kinds of places. But have a list, and I change it every year, but it stays the same as well. There's lots of stuff that stays the same. And then the kids get to know what all the stuff is that we actually have going to an event. From AV cart to robot to laptops and permission forms and all that stuff is on that list. And I just change the date, change the event, and add some stuff, if we're scouting changes or whatever, that kind of stuff. But it's all there, prepared. I just pull it up and use it every year. Location, make sure, I always forget that people don't know, the new people don't know where we're going. So grade 9s, parents, all that, make sure that I remind myself every year, oh yeah, It's the University of Waterloo. This is where the pack is. This is where the parking is. This is where you can drop off your kid. So those kind of things are important to have set up for your team members, family, and sponsors and all that stuff. I like to know where I'm going, so even when we went to Detroit, we actually went there in the fall before the event in April. We happened to be doing a conference there, but we went and scouted out, okay, how do I get in, where do I go, all that kind of stuff, because I like to know that stuff. I'm a bit of a detail kind of guy. How are we doing for time? I have no idea about crate this year. So if we go to championship, we've always had to have a crate to go into championship. So if you get qualified to go to championship, you have to have a crate. Now, they opened up last year, they did a trial, take your robot to championship for Detroit, or Michigan teams and Illinois. There's a few Illinois teams, I think. And it sounds like they're gonna be opening up that more. I don't know about Canada, cause the whole customs thing, all our robots have been going together to Detroit, from Ontario the last couple of years because of Detroit. So I don't know. It's always a good thing to have one. There are tons of teams out there that have them. So if you are a new team and you're not sure, then it's always worthwhile just making a phone call and say, or an email and say, hey, do you have a crate that we could use? If you're getting to that point where, you know, Ontario champs and your numbers are up and you think you might be qualified, or you won, you know, even rookies, that's a tough one with rookie teams. They win the rookie all-star and they're all of a sudden going to Worlds and they don't have a crate. But I don't know what the rule is, and I don't know if we'll find that out. I would really love to get rid of a crate, meaning not use the crate, just take my robot in my trailer, but who knows?
I guess the advantage in batching the robots is one customs transaction instead of everybody getting stopped.
Yep.
Do you ever have any problems coming back with regards to maybe you've acquired some parts from the vendors at the rink, or?
Yeah, I've had one time where I got stopped for any length of time at the border. I know other teams have had other issues, but we have virtually, the nice thing is our trailer has Orchard Park Secondary School robotics team on it, so they know exactly what is going on. If you're bringing a U-Haul trailer and it's full of stuff that they don't know what it is, it's a little more difficult because you don't have that branding right there. We always make a list of stuff and have it available. We rarely get asked for it. And is it exactly what's in the trailer? No, I don't know how many bolts I have actually, but it's a list of all the stuff. What do you guys do?
We do a rental.
You do a rental, and have you had trouble?
We bought stuff in the States, we just have our receipts with
Yeah.
us, never had a problem
Yeah.
coming back.
Yeah.
So we do that at IRI as well.
Yeah, we one time, the border customs guy wanted me to go to, commercial, and he wanted me to go through there, and and he was brand new, and so he was getting information from somebody next to him, and so finally, after about 20 minutes, he said, just get out of here. And so, that's the only time I've had, any problems. They open up
We
the
had-
trailer, they look in.
Actually, last year, they opened the doors and were like
Yeah.
poking in and.
Yeah. The nice thing about Detroit is, it's right there. If you go through the tunnel or you go through the bridge, you know that, okay, the Kobo Center's right there, and if they're at all listening to the news or anything, they know what's going on.
Well, they've also had 20 teams coming through.
Exactly. They've had tons of teams. Somebody had, I'm trying to think, I think it was 1114 got stuck a couple of years ago going to IRI or something, and they got, everything was pulled out and stuff like that. It was a bit of a mess, but, I've had like 14 years, this will be our 14th year, and we've virtually had no problems. And you just, have the paperwork and, invite your sponsors, make sure they know where you're competing. I've even gone to the, we'll pick you up, we'll take you there. make sure that if you know they're coming, you got students ready to show them around and things like that, that they have a personal touch to the event. Get lots of pictures, especially with your sponsors. Food is a big thing. I already talked about eating together before you get there, but we have a lot of food preparation stuff at events, so have that all done beforehand. Hershey Center, Fine Foods, Paramount Fine Foods is a bit of an issue.
It should be good this year.
I think so. But we, teams have food in their trailers, cook food in their hotels. We learned this from a team that's no longer around, but they, from Niagara Falls, Westland, they always had crock pots going and stuff like that at the events, and it was a great way to take care of the cost of food and be together, know where everybody is, and not wait in lines for restaurant food or things like that. This is a picture of two of my teachers that are handing out breakfast stuff before. So we would hand it out the night before so that they've got it in their rooms for the next morning in Detroit. And they could take that into the venue, they could eat it whenever they wanted, but it's all organized and stuff. So don't forget about all those meals. Snacks is a big thing. Long days at events, make sure you got water and snacks. And it depends on the venue a lot of what is available and what's not available. But we try to take care of all of that long before events. And the problem is, things like Ontario Champs, they won't post the fact that they have food to purchase until 2 weeks before. Well, I've got to have that all planned before 2 weeks before, because I got to get collecting money, I got kids selections and all that stuff. So that's part of the issue with prepaid stuff through the venue, and hopefully they are better this year.
Yeah, they should have it all up and running
Yeah.
way sooner.
Yeah, it was funny, well, we don't need to get into this. We won't. We like to get to venues early, so before an event opens, say the doors open at 7, we like to be there early so that we have the seats that we want, the location we want. We're all set up, ready to go. Trevor just walked in, and I could tell a story of him and my son walking through Atlanta at some ungodly hour that my wife never knew about. Well, we never knew about it for a while, but yeah, get there early, but not that early. So planning that beforehand, right? Making sure people know where to be beforehand. Strategy, we use game boards, so we make one every year for the game so that we can talk strategy with our partners, with our own team, and they're easy to make. You just rip off the pictures off of the field pictures and get a kid to doctor them up a little bit and print them off on whatever. We've had a couple different options, but you use a dry erase and away you go, and you got a game board. Make sure you talk to partners, have somebody that's gonna talk to partners. And we include our scouting information, so our kids are up there scouting so that we know who to pick, but we also know what we're gonna do in the next match. We record video of every match, so we've done a bunch of different things. We've had a camera up in the stands recording the whole field. Quite often you'll see me down on the field recording just our robot so that we know, autonomous was, needs to be fixed a little bit here or there, or what we were doing, things. So all that video can help you not only with your scouting for your pick list, but also for each match as you go into the next one.
When you say that, do you mean every match, all 60 of them, or are you just talking about the ones you're participating in?
So we'll do every match from up top, so we have a full field of every single match, and we have at least our matches close up. mostly, yeah, just our matches close up. Now that's changing too. They have a video online like almost immediately now. So the full field of every match is not as important as it used to be. But we still, for our own matches, we want that full field immediately so that we use iPads, and that iPad gets down to the field when the team is walking off the field, so that they can go back right after that match and preview, review, prepare for the next one. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? What can we improve on? That kind of stuff right after that match. So definitely all our matches, but it's not as critical anymore. It depends on the venue a bit, but it's not as critical because it's incredible how quickly they can get them up on. So we used to use all our video for scouting purposes at our pick list meeting. But you can just go online and see, okay, we missed this robot, what's it do? So you can go online and watch it. We used to have to do that all ourselves. Life is so much easier now. Scouting, it's important to teach your kids about scouting. It's important to tell them how important it is, how critical it is to your team's success. We train our scouts. We show them what scouting means to the final product that are at an event. Go to early events so that we can practice our scouting. So if you're competing week 3, then you can go to week 1 and watch an event, or at least watch it online and practice scouting. We watch videos, so we'll play video in my room and we'll scout from that video. It's not the best thing, but it's at least practice doing it. And then I know a lot of teams do, but make sure you include the kids in the picking list at some point so that they understand, hey, that information that I just spent all day recording is now being used to pick this team over this team. Make sure you have a pick list, no matter where you are in the whole scheme of things. It's practice for when you will need it if you don't need it this time. How do you communicate your pick list to your alliance captain? So you have an alliance captain down there, maybe they have a phone. These days you can text that to them. We use a whiteboard with a number on it, but make sure they know. We usually give our alliance captain the list so they at least know what numbers we're talking about, but they're not the only one making the decision. You can have that decision being done in the stands and then communicate it, because numbers disappear, right, as you go through that list.
I might use this as a way of assessing where you might be on somebody else's pick list.
Absolutely. We always see where we're at in our numbers and see if it makes sense to where we thought we were, for sure. Look good. It's important to look good. Sponsors like that, your school likes that, your parents like that. Look good. Pictures, video, all that stuff. You can market yourself in the sense that you look good. Karthik always looks good, but take pictures. And we always tell the kids right off the bat that we're going to celebrate at the end of this year, wherever we are. We're going to celebrate win, lose, or tie. I threw tie in there at the end, and I thought, well, we celebrate no matter what, because there's a lot of stuff that we learned, gained, had fun with, no matter what, no matter where we ended. So we do a big dinner at the end. That's part of their registration at the very beginning. They got some dinner tickets, we call them, as part of that celebration that they can look forward to. And we give pictures to our sponsors and things like that, that we can say thank you to them. And that celebration is sponsors, parents, team members, mentors, people that were involved. And then my last slide, get lots of rest, because it's tiring. That's all I got. Questions, comments, other things that I missed? One thing I did remember, I was gonna add a slide about autonomous, so I'll talk about that in a minute.
My team is a bit smaller, so how would you recommend avoiding the brain drain that comes along with building a second robot?
I would suggest it doesn't add that much to your overall building a robot. We always build our practice robot, and then our competition bot comes just behind it. So we spend our time, we build this one, we know that this part, aspect of the robot's gonna work. We've got the drive base together, probably most of the mechanisms on it, we probably fired it up even somehow, maybe a bit makeshift, but not meaning that makeshift. You know what I mean. But then we can start working on the comp bot. And our comp bot takes a lot more time than our practice bot. We take care of every detail. We only have one person wiring it, things like that. So if you do that, the people are finished doing the mechanical part of this, then they could start working on this. We have too many kids, and that's, they all wanna be involved, and so it's hard to manage those, but if you don't have enough, it's just as hard to manage, so that you're trying to decide what your priority is. If they're the same, it's a lot less work to build two than if they were different.
Hey, I'm sure we're willing to take some of your kids if you have too many.
I'll give you some of my kids.
I'm curious about how you do your schedule and manage your time, because on my team we have a lot of kids, and in past years we've worked 2:40 when our school ends to 10 p.m. every night of the week, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Sunday, and like just do that every week. And it seems like you guys get more things done than we do. So I'm curious what you do, and we've been looking to spend less time in our shop,
Right.
and I'm curious what you do to get so much done in such a small amount of time.
Yeah, so we're pretty focused when we are actually working, and if you're not there every night, the same kids are there the nights that you are there. So you haven't got this change of, oh, where did we finish and what do we need to start? So part of our plan is to make sure that kids have time to do their schoolwork and, you know, band or whatever they're doing, other things, that they can do those on the off days so they're not away for the days that we're actually working. We're focused on exactly what has to happen every night that we're on build schedule. What are we working on? Who's working on it? And so and we have a mentor that's involved in that part. So for instance, you know, the actual building of the robot, you know, Tyler's there, working with the kids that are working on that, and so there's no, oh, where we left off, or what are we doing tonight, and wasting all that kind of time. The 60 kids that I have on my list are not there every night, and they're not all working on the robot. They're doing different things. Like I said, the field stuff at the beginning. You can have 30 kids working on field stuff with 10 adults and shop teachers and stuff like that. So I'm trying to think of what else specifically. You know, we have we know what parts we're making in the machine shop this night, so they're starting to roll out the drawings and stuff, so people are working on that. We don't spend a lot of time sitting around. Dinner time is a good time to just break and not do anything and actually focus on team stuff, but once dinner's over, we move on. So I'm gonna go around the circle.
Yeah, how does your team deal with the fundraising aspects of things?
Good question. We are we've had some really great sponsors over the last number of years that we're losing. And so another big thing this year is to get out there and look for sponsors. So we have a sponsorship package, we have online stuff, we tell kids to talk to parents, family members, companies. Had people go out this week and just knock on doors to different places with our sponsorship package, which is, we have a paper one that you can hand them, we have a USB one that you can give them, or there's stuff online. We've also done a little bit of fundraising. We do a recycle drive every year, so electronics and stuff, we bring in $2,000 just doing that. We've sold chocolate bars, we've sold hex bugs. What else do we do? That's about it. Sponsors are big ones. And we've had some big key sponsors, which is nice. And the thing is, sponsors typically go 4 years or maybe 5 years, because their kid or their connection to a kid is that, and then they kind of drop off at the end. I know some teams say, hey, can you give us a 3-year commitment or a 4-year commitment? I'd rather have less money every year and that kind of thing. We've not done that, but that's.
How would you recommend choosing between several different designs that you may be thinking about or have when you don't have the materials to actually go and test them?
Yeah, we look at old robots, so we look at how effective those kind of mechanisms were on other robots in other years and other games. We look at, okay, how much money can we afford to do that? And then it's as much as we can prototype stuff with, we don't do a lot of prototyping, but if you got a drill and a shaft with some wheels on it, you can see if it actually moves that ball or whatever. We kind of vote on stuff somewhat. There's a lot of direction from mentors in direction where we're gonna go with stuff. We've never had a big decision to make between different things. It's usually pretty unanimous on where we're going with stuff. But it is a battle. I know teams have that battle.
How much do you guys use CAD?
Tons. Everything's CAD.
Everything's CAD,
Everything's CAD.
and it's exactly what you're gonna make?
Yeah. And so that goes into, does it actually work? If it's CADed and you've got a ball in there, you know that this ball will fit in there, or this won't work because it's taking up the space of the mechanism or whatever. So, yeah, everything, every single thing is CADed. And we make it from drawings. We don't make it from what we think it might be. I'm gonna come over here.
How big is your budget?
How big is our budget? I like to say 85,000.
That includes travel?
Yes. That includes parents, like everything that comes in and out of what I see. So, bus to Detroit, hotel rooms for even families, if it's going through me, that kind of stuff. Food, robots. Breakdown is about 12 to 14,000 for robots. Event registration is what? 75, 35, and then 6-ish, so almost 20 grand. Yeah.
What's your breakdown of revenue? You get most of it from sponsors?
Yeah, most of it comes from sponsors. Just off the top of my head, I would say probably 50, between 50 and 60,000 is sponsors. But we've lost some big ones. And we'll continue to lose some big ones, which is, it's just the nature of the beast.
GM is stepping up this year.
Yeah, GM is a big one that's, we will see the hit of that next year.
What do you guys use to communicate between all members?
So we use a number of different things. Email is one. We have been using Discord, which is not, you can't use it in the school through Wi-Fi, so that's a bit of an issue. But we use Discord outside, or the kids just go on data and use Discord. I use Remind app to send notices, so as teacher, I use Remind app to parents that have signed up or students. I found that the most effective for me, and then the kids and design. The robot stuff is more Discord announcements and, we gotta be here at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever is Remind app.
Going off that, I know our team uses Slack.
Yep.
So if that
We-
helps.
Yeah, we tried Slack, we've tried, what else did we try? We've tried a few different things and we just, Discord seems to be the one that everybody has. But the board will not open. I asked them, I says, it's for robotics. No.
What do you do in the off season to prepare yourself, like, robot technically, for the next season?
Yeah, so in the fall, so starting next week, I think, I have students doing presentations on different aspects of robot stuff. So they're getting kids up to speed on what electrical, programming, mechanical, scouting, all that stuff. We don't do a lot of building stuff in the summer kind of thing. We did do CAD sessions over the summer this year, which was our first time doing that. So Tyler did online CAD seminar once a week he had opened it up to some 11-14 kids and our kids. We were hoping to be able to record those and be able to make them available to people, but it didn't. I think the first one didn't work, the second one, no, there was no sound. The third one, maybe it worked, I can't remember, but, so we're hoping to at least provide them for people. Maybe we'll do it again and we'll get them all recorded nicely, and he just went through SolidWorks. We use SolidWorks, so he went through SolidWorks and kind of the basics of what we do for drawing stuff. So that's probably the biggest thing that we've done recently.
I know it doesn't really pertain to this lecture too much, but our team is doing CAD for the first time this
Okay.
year. Would you have any big pieces of advice for us?
Trevor?
It's really steep learning curve. Take your time with it. Mainly, make sure that you're all working from the same copy is a really big one. So whether you use like an online repo, we've used Dropbox in the past. There's some like SVN things that you can do for sharing. Make sure you're all working from the same copy. Make sure you all agree on stuff, and that it's following the rules in the rule book as well. We definitely chop some stuff out before and have to change it. Aside from that, make sure you at least have like a core group of like maybe 3 or 4 people who are pretty decently rehearsed, like feel comfortable making some parts out of it and having it go together. Yeah, just try not to bite off like more than you chew. Like if you can only do the drive base or like a couple mechanisms, do that, and then kind of go back to your old system from there if you have to. Don't feel like you gotta stick to it 100%, but definitely as much as you can do. But I've seen teams like go way too hard on it, and then they're in like week 5, week 6, and they've still got like 1/4 of the robot CAD'd and they're freaking out. Try not to put on that hole.
You can also use GrabCAD.
Yeah, GrabCAD's good. For SolidWorks.
Yeah.
OnShape is getting a lot better too, and easy to install on any computer.
Something else. We keep a fairly small group of people on CAD so that you don't have 20 people working on a robot and things get a mess. So we have a very small group of people.
You said you had 60 kids on your team?
Yeah, I think I have 85 on my list. I've
Yeah.
had about 65 show up on Tuesdays.
So how do you organize those kids into what they're all doing? Like, do you have organized sub-teams? Do the kids choose? Do they switch around?
We've done a whole bunch of different things, and nothing works well for me. Part of my focus on having kids teach the different things over the next 2 months is for kids to learn what programming is about, what scouting is about, and do I want to be involved in that part of it. I in fact tell kids they're not on the team until after October sometime. I say, okay, is this really what you want to do? Do you want to get in crazy robotics team, or is this just because you want to get it on your resume? So learn those different things, and then I say, okay, Eric, this guy right here is the programmer. If you wanna program robots, you need to be like right by his side from now till the end of June, and learn from him, and be with him, help him when, you know, they gotta reset the robot and stuff like that. So I let them choose kind of where they wanna go. I have my senior students, which kind of have their area they've chosen over the years, and they've proven themselves, so they become that. We had interviews one year, we had applications, and the kids that I wanted to put in that role didn't apply, and I go, well, like, what's with this? Anyway, so when you have 60 kids, it becomes management, right? Well, how do you get, because you can't have 60 kids working on a robot, or you can't have 60 kids programming or CADing or whatever. So typically, they start to fall off. And I know you guys, you know, when you move to your off-site location, you lose kids. We don't lose kids because of off-site, we lose kids because we're here till 9:30
Yeah,
at
it's a
night.
big commitment, yeah.
So you start to learn who is actually in deep and wants to actually learn that stuff. The rumor around here is that grade 9s do nothing, and that's not true. I've had grade 9s that have been there all the time and learned, and actually started working on a robot by the end of March, because they were learning and they were stuck to that other kid that was doing it.
How do you decide what kids go to competitions and?
So then we look at their attendance, I keep their attendance, and we look at how they've been involved, and we have, I say, if you haven't been here 50% of the time, then why do you wanna go to a competition? And some do, I say, well, your parents could take you, it's, you know, I think I figured out this year, if we go to the events that we think we're going to, we would only miss one day of school, except for champs.
Yeah,
in
there's
Detroit.
a lot of Saturday,
Yeah,
Sunday
yeah.
ones, yeah.
Waterloo's on March break, things like that, so, so they could go no matter what, but I say, okay, I don't want you to hand in paperwork because you haven't been here. We sat down with kids one year and went through that list and said, you're not going to an event. Championship is the big one that we have to decide, okay, I only want 25 to 30 kids. I think last year we took 32 or something. And basically they weed themselves out. I would like to weed more out, but I also don't know if this kid's gonna shine in this area until we actually get to that point.
Well, do you, like, we always struggle with, the grade 9s don't really know, they haven't seen a competition, so we like to try to take as many of those kids as we can, cause that's what really will hook them, so.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna use Stanley for that
difficult.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is, like, we'll compete at MAC, so everybody can go to MAC.
Yeah.
Nobody's staying overnight, everybody's there.
Yeah, we go to Western for
Yeah,
that.
same thing. The problem is MAC, you know, if our schedule, and I don't know what our schedule's gonna be, cause, we're still trying to decide what our second event will be, or our first event. Typically, we go to Waterloo and MAC, and Waterloo's first, so then we have to travel a little bit to get to Waterloo before we get to MAC, so it would be nice if it was reversed, just for that reason, that everybody could go to MAC. But STEMLY is an exact, like, I encourage kids to go to STEMLY, and parents, and, cause there's.
What is that?
So that is, it's a Hamilton, so it's.
Is that the off-season?
Yeah.
Is it on October 26th?
No, it's
November
November.
9th.
9th?
We're
And
going
the
to
10th
one on
now.
October 26th.
9th and
I
10th,
don't know.
Yeah, cause they've added a second day because of the number of people.
Oh, you go in the
Yeah,
ruckus.
so we're the co-hosts for STEMLY, so if you wanted to find out more
And
about
it's
that,
in November.
come talk to us.
Apparently, we're going to an off-season in October.
Rochester,
Yeah.
it's fun,
It's a good one.
it's a long day.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
We'll be there too, we
2-hour
get on the bus
drive
at 3 in the
and-
morning.
It's a better venue than Stanley.
So you're not talking about Rochester in the States?
Yes,
Yes.
No, that's not the one.
Oh,
No?
so
There's
now
one in
it's
Windsor, I
Oh, they
think,
did the Windsor
as
one.
well.
Oh, it's the same.
It's
name.
probably Southwest.
Yeah.
Southwest, okay,
Ah.
yeah.
And that's a great way to get people there and learn what it's all about before we get into building robots and stuff. But yeah, I'm not too critical about who goes to events locally. It's when I'm
Right.
traveling to
Yeah, like you're
Detroit
not gonna
now.
take 2 buses.
Nope.
No.
I mean, one of the things I really think enabled our team is 4039, being able to speak with these guys at any time, regular contact with the adult mentors and our adult mentors, the ability to go to the Robodome or to their shop and
Yep.
Get ideas and help with CAD and help with this and help with that. We really haven't done CAD, but we're able to look over somebody else's shoulder and then watch that. We're able to guide them through the design requirement that we had, and then they cut something out in a 3D router.
Yeah.
CNC router
Yeah.
and such, so.
Yeah.
I think that's helpful. You guys do that as well with other teams?
Yep, yep, we, try to help as many teams as we can, that's why you're here. But, yeah, we open up our field, when we had Bag Day, we would open up our field on the day before, like that Family Day weekend, for teams to come and, do some practicing, depending on where we're at with our robot and stuff like that, but it is not a full field, so it's a little more difficult, but, yeah, we're here to help. And the nice thing, that's why I got involved in this, is that everybody's wants to help other teams. We wanna
Yeah.
bring everybody else up instead of knocking people down. Yep.
I'm curious about succession planning. I spoke to Eric at District Champs, and like, he seems to know so much about programming, but I'm curious if you're gonna have a similar situation to us, where I'm one of 3 grade 12 programmers who knows a lot on our team, and we're all graduating. So, like, what do
What do you do?
do?
Yeah, so
Train
every
your
year,
replacement.
every year I think that I'm gonna lose a group of kids that I'll never replace. Like when that guy in the back row left, I thought, how can I replace him? And people step into those positions, but you do, you have to grab a grade 9, a grade 10 that's interested in programming or whatever your role is, and teach them. And don't let them go. I tell them to hang on to you, cause that's probably more realistic, but, that you have to get them to a point where you can say, okay, go. And you're probably not going very far. So you're always text or email or Skype or whatever, and, you know, a lot of the nice thing about our team, the mentality is that you go help, either you come back and help us, or you go help another team, and
I think part of that is you want to, as soon as the budget graduated out of the program, recognizes a role for FRC alumni, that's number
Yep.
1. And number 2, leave a legacy, so it's not just interesting code, but well-commented code.
What?
Documentary evidence of how this particular design came about. The CAD files and so on are in a findable place.
Yep.
That's one of the shortcomings that I acknowledge our team had in our first year. I mean, we're sort of bumbling around
Your
in the
first
dark.
year.
Yeah, not really sure what's going on, how much bigger than our bread box is this thing, and like that. But I think in moving forward, I think what we want to do is to leave that legacy. So
Yep.
we'll rely on Jared to document his code and to back up copies and for us to know
I
where
can
those
try.
are, for him to begin to get somebody else under his wing. So if
Yep.
he's not there on a competition day and we need a code assist, then somebody else is there,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Who can step in. He may not be as clever as he is, but hey.
Yep. And just finding those, like, when I'm watching kids do stuff, I'm watching them and say, hey, you should be there working with Eric on that coding stuff, or whatever, it may be, mechanical or CAD, or, you know, running the CNC machine. We have, you know, problems keeping kids trained on the CNC machine, cause they leave and then we don't have anybody, to replace them, so.
Yeah, these are things that we covet is CNC access, is high on my shopping list. Because we're running a robotics course, the other question I want to ask you about is, to what extent is there co-funding involved here? Because my view is that to run the course, we're gonna need maybe a couple of tri-bases and a little of this, a little of that, some tools. So my reaction is the school has a responsibility to provision the course. Okay, and then we'll use our fundraising then to provide the extras, you know, additional spare parts that are more competition related.
Right.
You know, the second robot and,
Yeah,
Yeah,
funding through the school and the board that we've found is, that, you know, I get peanuts, into the course
Yeah.
and so it's, I give and take from, you know, I buy equipment that I use for both and that ends up in my classroom, but it's a battle. And then it's not gonna get easier in the school systems. I know that,
Yeah.
but, I'm gonna let you guys go, cause it is 10:30. There is popcorn, I think, in the caf and some water or whatever, and then get on to your second session.
Thank you.
I'll be around all day, so
Thank you.
Yeah.
thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us.